Let's go now to Admiral James Stavridis, former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. Admiral, it's really good to have you. Jumping off of what Brendan was saying there, you also, by the way, are the author of the new novel, The Restless Wave. Talking about what Brendan was saying, that it's one thing to come out and say you don't believe he's going to do a good job, he's going to be a fascist, I'm worried about it. But then not to take that extra step to say you shouldn't vote for him. I understand there's military tradition of not getting partisan, not getting political. But if you believe a guy's going to come in and try to rip up the Constitution and he'll have the people around him who will help enable him to do so, wouldn't military tradition say maybe you should step in and try to stop it?
I think all of these senior military officers, you just rattled off a long list, both the military and political appointees. First, these are intensely personal decisions for people to make, Katie. Secondly, it is very real that retired senior military will typically not endorse candidates. Occasionally it happens. I, for one, have never endorsed a candidate. But number three, when someone like John Kelly speaks, regardless of whether he, as you just put it, takes the extra step to endorse the opposition candidate or not, when he speaks and lays out his intimate view of Donald Trump, I completely believe him. And that's because I've known him for 40 years. He is the ultimate stand-up, authentic, genuine war hero, gold star father. When he says Trump said suckers and losers, I 100% believe him. When he says that Trump is the definition of a fascist, I believe him. And I think that that is a powerful and important voice and testimonial. I give John a lot of credit for coming out and going specifically recorded. You could hear the emotion in his voice. You can tell it's hard for him to do this. He is doing the right thing, and we ought to commend him for it.
I hear you on that. I do want to focus a bit more, though. You say you believe him, you know him. Not a lot of Americans know him. I mean, he's a big name, certainly was chief of staff, but that doesn't mean he's got great name recognition around the country. It doesn't mean that he's got great trust around the country. When you're talking to Donald Trump supporters at his rallies, and maybe they're not the ones that you should be trying to convince, but they don't believe anybody but Donald Trump, period. So I wonder if it's enough to talk to the New York Times in an audio clip. I wonder if there's not another step that some of these folks can take to get out on the ground, maybe not associated with a political campaign, but to get out on the ground and talk to individual voters where they are face to face, as opposed to the intermediary of a place like the New York Times.
First, as Mike Schmidt just said, it's not just the New York Times. This is now a recorded conversation that people can go and listen to. In terms of convincing Trump supporters, people wearing MAGA hats, not going to happen. Doesn't matter who comes out and speaks to them. So my view is John Kelly has stepped up on this. I think others are doing a little bit less, but still contributing. Jim Mattis knows him well and has been pretty reticent. H.R. McMaster has steered kind of a middle course, but it's up to the people who have really been around him hour after hour, day after day, month after month to come out and give the American people a portrait. I think they're doing that. I think they are, in that sense, doing their duty. And I am proud of them. They
are certainly getting out there. I had a long conversation with H.R. McMaster about Donald Trump surrounding his new book. I think it went on for close to 20 minutes here on this show. Admiral, I want to ask you about one of the other things that's in the news today, and this is North Korea sending troops to Russia to fight Ukraine. How concerned are you about that?
I'm very concerned. Tactically, it's a real boost for the Russians, and I can assure you those will be well-trained, capable North Koreans. North Korea is like Sparta. It's a country that focuses always on preparing to go to war. These will not be a bunch of hapless draftees like the Russians are throwing at the front lines. These are going to be quality troops. So there's a tactical implication. Operationally, it's bad because it means that now Kim Jong-un has got a check due from Vladimir Putin. That'll come back to North Korea in advanced weapons, information about nuclear programs, satellite systems. All of that threatens our key ally, South Korea. And then finally, strategically, it's part of this pattern, Katie, that you and I have been talking about, of these renegade nations, Russia, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, Iran, drawing closer and closer together, creating old term alert here, but a true axis of evil. This is a dramatic move and one that ought to concern us.
Okay, Admiral James Stavridis, thank you very much. Again, you've got a new novel out. It's called The Restless Wave. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.